Hey everyone! If you enjoyed this video, the full version is available on Patreon. I'll be uploading all my content there going forward. It's currently free, but in the future I'll add a small monthly fee to support the channel. Comment or message me what price feels fair for you. Let's make it comfortable for both sides.
Hey everyone! If you enjoyed this video, the full version is available on Patreon. I'll be uploading all my content there going forward. It's currently free, but in the future I'll add a small monthly fee to support the channel. Comment or message me what price feels fair for you. Let's make it comfortable for both sides. Patreon link in description.
Chapter 1. My head, it hurts so much, where am I? As if the intense sunlight of an overcast day were shining on his cheeks, Lu Yuan slowly opened his eyes. Seemingly unaccustomed to the long-lost light, it took him a minute to barely make out his surroundings. Before he could even take a good look around, images from his memories flooded his mind like a revolving lantern. I'm dead, aren't I? He muttered to himself. He was originally an ordinary high school sophomore, the only extraordinary thing about him being his appearance. Exceptionally handsome, surpassing even celebrities, he naturally attracted the adoration of countless girls. However, he remained diligent and studious, completely ignoring those naive girls. Actually, it was because he preferred mature women, and the girls who confessed to him at school were all too young and not his type. Over time, his reputation as an ice prince spread far and wide, even throughout the school and the county. Good heavens, all he wanted was to get into university quickly so he could flirt with those lovely upperclassmen. For this pure purpose, he studied diligently. After all, the higher the institution of study, the higher the proportion of intellectual and mature older women. As a result, his grades consistently ranked around the top 30 in the city's key high school. This level of achievement would be enough to get him into any of the top universities, barring any major mistakes during the college entrance examination. As for why he didn't apply to an arts school? Besides the fact that he prefers older women with depth and intelligence. Another reason is simple: he doesn't want to rely on his looks for a living. Wouldn't it be better to rely on his intelligence? This young man, full of positive energy and hope for the future, was tragically murdered on his way home. The reason? He remembered the madman's roar after killing him. "It's all your fault. It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, Lanlan wouldn't have broken up with me." Lanlan? Who's that? Could it be the name of the girl who confessed to me this afternoon? What's wrong with this world? Is it wrong to be good looking? I'm so angry and cold. With such regret and anger, this question in his mind became Lu Yuan's last thought. Let's go back to the present. Why am I, who should be dead, in this strange place? He glanced around. The room, with its Japanese-style exoticism, was clearly unlike anything he'd ever seen in his homeland, yet it evoked a strong sense of déjà vu. Japan. He got out of bed, glanced at the empty room with only the bedding beneath him and the tatami floor he had seen countless times in anime, and involuntarily uttered that word. If he was right, this must be a bedroom, and not just one person's. The floor-to-ceiling solid wood lattice doors were pushed open to both sides, leading to a narrow corridor. The sunlight was neither too hot nor too dim, and one could see the artificial hill in the distance. "Hey, Lu Yuan, what are you dawdling for? If you don't get up soon, you'll miss the sword-granting ceremony." A small head peeked out from the wooden door, and the rather childish face made Lu Yuan pause for a moment. It looked like it was only a little over 10 years old, but it had a big mouth, as if it were its own age. The person who arrived was wearing a kimono, a white top, and blue trousers, and appeared to be only about 1.3 meters tall. Lu Yuan suddenly wondered, what is this person talking about? What sword-granting ceremony? And are we even that close? Before he could react, the boy grabbed Lu Yuan's sleeve and forcibly pulled him up. "Hey, who are you? What are you doing?" Lu Yuan was a little annoyed and tried to pull his sleeve back, but failed. He pursed his lips in dissatisfaction. Me? I'm Jinyan. Qing Chuan Jinyan. We've lived together for a year and you don't know who I am? Lu Yuan, are you out of your mind? A year. He mentally muttered, what a weird name, and then, completely bewildered, he was dragged away by Zhen Yan. Explain yourself clearly. What does bestowing the sword mean? Where are you taking me? Seemingly exasperated by Lu Yuan's reaction, Zhen Yan replied without turning her head, what is granting a sword? It's about acquiring our own Zanpakuto, of course. Zanpakuto? Lu Yuan froze, speechless as if he had lost his soul. I've been transported to the world of death gods. Even if Lu Yuan was slow to react, he finally realized what was going on. That's fantastic. You're Yuakini-chan. Ranjaku Nii-san. Anohana Nii-san. Nel Nii-san. Oh ho! I'm better now. Thump. The tender flesh of his waist was twisted hard, and Lu Yuan finally came to his senses, looking at the helpless Zhen Yan. What are you doing? Jinyan didn't answer. The surroundings were quiet. Lu Yuan suddenly looked around and found that dozens of boys and girls wearing the same Japanese-style school uniforms, as well as a strange-looking man in a shiaka outfit, were all looking at him. Lu Yuan, are you thinking about what to eat today? I can see your mouth is practically watering. The Grim Reaper asked, his smile stiff and forced. Lu Yuan glanced at them, they were unfamiliar faces. The fact that they were here as guides for the sword-granting ceremony meant they weren't official members of the Godai 13. After all, besides the official Shinigami of the Godai 13, there were many lower-ranking Shinigami whose names he didn't even know. Most of these lower-ranking Shinigami are also graduates of the Shinigami Academy, and they are the majority of those in the series who don't even have names. There are countless wandering souls in Soul Society, but only 1 in 100 can pass the entrance exam for the Shinigami Academy, and only 1 in 100 can successfully complete their Shikai upon graduation. Well, otherwise, do you think the Godai 13 would only have so few people? Lu Yuan smiled awkwardly and replied, Teacher, I was just too excited. Lu Yuan's appearance drew a chorus of soft laughter from the students. The lower-ranking Grim Reaper shook his head helplessly, ultimately saying nothing more, even finding it somewhat amusing. Looking at the boys and girls below, unable to conceal their excitement, he sighed inwardly, weren't they just like this back then? But, even after spending several years, they're still only using shallow katakatsu, a type of Japanese katakatsu. I wonder what their expressions will be when they experience this helpless despair? The lower-ranking Grim Reaper stepped aside, revealing dozens of sword blades stuck in the ground behind him. This will likely be your lifelong partner. From this day forward until you complete your graduation assessment, you are only temporarily borrowing it. But as long as you don't give up on continuing the assessment, even if it takes 7 or 8 years, the Spirit Arts Academy will not take it back. I probably don't need to say more, you all surely understand its importance. So, let's begin the sword-granting ceremony. Chapter 2. A Zanpakuto, its shape, state, and abilities are forged based on the soul of a Shinigami, death god. A Shinigami gains power by knowing the name of the Zanpakuto bestowed upon them and by engaging in a spiritual dialogue with it. This is the Zanpakuto. The above content is excerpted from Beta Bake, Baidu Encyclopedia. The sword-granting ceremony was that part of the original storyline. Several years have passed since Bleach ended. When Lu Yuan read it, he was just an ordinary, immature middle school student. Because the memory is so distant, he can no longer recall some of the specific details. Aside from all the key or exciting plot points, he had completely forgotten most of the content. My impression of Bleach is basically limited to so cool. So big. As he watched his fellow students step forward and draw their Zanpakuto, Lu Yuan's gaze gradually hardened. If I'm a weakling, how could I possibly dare to flirt with those pretty older women? Take Rangiku for example. Although she is just one of many supporting characters in the series, she is a very rare and important figure for the natives of Seoul society. That's the vice-captain of the 10th Division. Not some nobody. Without power, you can't even see them. Lu Yuan, can you tolerate your weakness? Can you accept missing out on so many beautiful older sisters? Without realizing it, Lu Yuan had already clenched his fists. The lower-ranking Shinigami noticed Lu Yuan's hesitation in drawing his Zanpakuto, and seeing the intense will in his eyes and the clenched fist, couldn't help but feel a pang of emotion. Although he seems a bit slow-witted, he's actually a diligent student yearning to become a full-fledged Shinigami. If this lower-level Grim Reaper knew that Lu Yuan's mind was filled with thoughts of older women, one wonders what he would think. Is this the Zanpakuto? Shinonome felt the resonance between his soul and the blade. The Zanpakuto, like a newborn infant, greedily absorbed his spiritual pressure, even his spirit and conviction. The feeling was indescribable. He gently drew the blade, sheathed it, and glanced at his roommate. He found him staring wide-eyed, gripping the hilt as if frozen in place. Lu Yuan's eyes were filled with undisguised shock. This is... Tired gay guy kicks me away. Addiction continues. The only thing is, love is too rough. Original lyrics, raindrops turned into my tears, the wind brought my breath and stories. Oops, I've mixed up the shows. Ding! The pay-to-win system has been activated. The initial login reward of 500 has been automatically claimed. It can be obtained through selling lottery items, exchanging currency, or completing tasks. Your personal information panel has been unlocked. New player quests have been released. Task name, starting from scratch. Task description, sell any system item and make a profit. Even though you have nothing yet. Task reward, a super value newbie gift pack. Although it's free. Mission failed, affinity with older women -1, I know what you're afraid of. Damn it. This mission absolutely has to be completed. Upon seeing the punishment for failing the final mission, Lu Yuan reflexively blurted out the answer in his mind. He was already too lazy to even comment on things like login rewards or get rich quick or get rich quick and spend money linked together. Lu Yuan, what's wrong with you again? Why are you just spacing out? Lu Yuan heard someone calling him, looked down, and saw Zhenyan standing beside him, looking at him. He naturally couldn't tell Zhenyan that he had activated the pay-to-win system when he held Asada earlier, so he gave the same excuse, no, I was just a little too excited, haha. As he spoke, he sheathed his sword, Asaka. Seeing that the lower-ranking Grim Reaper still had something to say, he and Jinyan lined up neatly like the other students. However, he still glanced at Jinyan out of the corner of his eye, selling things for profit? This kid seems pretty easy to fool. As you all know, a Zanpakuto is, in a sense, an incarnation of a Shinigami. It must be nurtured with one's own spirit and adapted to with one's own spiritual pressure. Only in this way can one achieve a heart-to-heart communication with the Zanpakuto, acquire its true name, and complete its release. Only then can one use the Zanpakuto's true power. You need to treat your Zanpakuto as part of your lives, not just as tools to be wielded. Only then can you achieve communication. The most important thing for Shikai is the harmony of spiritual pressure. And the foundation of this is the amount of spiritual pressure. If you don't even have enough spiritual pressure to activate Shikai, then naturally you can't proceed to the next step, and you won't even know the name of your Zanpakuto. The fact that you passed the initial test proves that you at least have the aptitude in this area. However, it's too early to expect to achieve Shikai so soon after entering your second year. Just work hard. Besides that, an unnamed lower-ranking Shinigami explained the basics of Zanpakuto and Asachi to the crowd, as well as how to fuse one's spirit and spiritual pressure with the Zanpakuto. At first, Lu Yuan listened carefully to the other party's explanation, but then he gradually realized that most of what the other party said was a stream of consciousness description, such as try to feel the soul movement of the Zanpakuto and treat it as a living partner and other difficult to understand words. As for any technically sophisticated operations he imagined, such as inputting XX units of spiritual power at midnight every day or witnessing the first rays of dawn with his Zanpakuto, none of them were included. So Liu Yuan only listened for a couple of sentences before scoffing and opening his personal information panel. Similar to what I read in the comics back then, I'm not listening to this BDS rambling. Host, Liu Yuan. 500. Currency, 2,100 yen. Zanpakuto, Asachi. Spiritual pressure, 5. The average level of a wandering spirit is 1. Tools, none. Ability, none. Note, you have enough diamonds for 1 10 pull. Your first 10 pull on any gacha banner guarantees at least 1 SR item. What level is spirit pressure? 5. Rounding up, that's about 10 times the average person's. Passing the Shinigami Academy's entrance exam with that level of spiritual pressure is just average, right? I wonder what level that instructor, lower level, Shinigami, is at. Upon opening the pay-to-win system, Liu Yuan immediately spotted the brightly lit card pool. Yen Bleach Summoning Pool, permanent, yen. With a thought, I gently swiped to the next room. Yen Gintama, current month, yen. 10 consecutive wins. What an intoxicating phrase. Ha, Liu Yuan K, am not some African who needs a safety net. Bite. Bleach Gacha Pool 10 pull, minus 500. Accompanied by a crisp sound in his mind, a silver card flashed by. Kido Heido number 4, White Lightning, R. Description: a bolt of lightning is unleashed from the fingertip, paralyzing the enemy. The host did not possess this skill, it has been automatically learned. Liu Yuan's eyes lit up. Wow, this looks pretty good. A voice sounded in his mind again, and a grey card flashed by. Item System Brand Premium Spirit Rice, Tenjin, N. Description: rice containing spiritual particles, grown from the soil of Soul Society. Long-term consumption can slowly increase spiritual pressure, with an effect 3 times that of ordinary spiritual rice. Price: 3,000 yen/kg. Note: unlocked items can be purchased from the general store. Liu Yuan had seen it before. A single draw costs 50 yen, and for every 1,000 yen of net profit earned from selling miscellaneous items from the system shop, you get 1 diamond. In other words, a huge loss of 20,000. Byte. Item System Brand Premium Spirit Rice, Tenjin, N. It's you again. After skipping over another 50 jin of spirit rice, a silver card finally flashed by. Item Intermediate Skill Experience Book, R. Description: consuming this item grants 1000 skill experience points. Only the host can use this item. Something that seems high level but has unclear meaning. Liu Yuan's heart skipped a beat. Wait, this seems to be the 9th shot already. Byte. A golden card flashed across Liu Yuan's retina. Wow, a golden SR. Footwork Instant Step, SR. Description: through repeated training, after pushing physical limits, one can use compressed spiritual pressure to instantly teleport, moving to the opponent's side or even further away at a speed invisible to them. The rain has stopped, the sky has cleared, and I, Hu Hansen, am back in action. Chapter 3. Instant Step is a high-level movement technique unique to Shinigami, Death Gods. Although it's considered high-level, most graduates of the Shinigami Academy know this technique. However, the difference in execution between 2 different people varies greatly depending on their level of proficiency. However, those are advanced techniques that graduates or 4th or 5th grade students can learn after completing the basic ghost path. Looking at Liu Yuan again, after transmigrating, forget about instant step, the knowledge he'd gained in the past year, utterly. Completely completely. Unbelievable. If he hadn't just spent money to pull the 4th level of the demonic path, he could say he knew absolutely nothing about Keto. After all, he's just an ordinary high school student. Even if he searched how to learn Keto on Baidu, he wouldn't get any proper instruction. Following the sword granting ceremony came the instructional lessons, which were divided into theory of Keto, the origin and evolution of hollows, and the history of Siritii. These theoretical classes mainly take place in the morning, while practical classes are held from 2 p.m. to 5:30 p.m., covering topics such as hand-to-hand combat, footwork, demonic arts, and slashing techniques. Heido number 4, White Lightning. Heido number 4, White Lightning. With 2 consecutive chants, the 2 streaks of white lightning collided and then cancelled each other out. Lu Yuan, when did your lightning strikes become so accurate? That's amazing. Seeing Jinyan's surprised expression, Lu Yuan didn't know how to explain anything, and simply maintained a smile. A great man once said that when you don't know what expression to show, just smile. As seen earlier, Lu Yuan is practicing counter-demon killing with Zhen Yan. Counter-demon killing involves using a Keto of the same quality and quantity as the opponents to destroy and eliminate them. Although different Ketos or even other types of spiritual pressure attacks, such as hollow bullets, can be successfully neutralized, it is still best for beginners to practice using the same Keto. Even so, achieving the exact balance of energy needed to offset the difference is still quite challenging for those who have just entered the 2nd year. During training, Lu Yuan discovered that the abilities acquired through the system were automatically classified as LV1, while it seemed that these first-year students might not even have reached LV1, and were mostly still at the level of level 0 skills. This was also the reason why his chanting process was significantly smoother than Zhen Yan's, and even surpassed hers after starting later. Jinyan originally planned to practice other methods of breaking through, but she couldn't resist Lu Yuan's suggestion and ended up training in the anti-demon killing method. Lu Yuan had no choice, since he was currently completely unfamiliar with all the ghost paths except for white lightning. According to what he had gleaned from Zhen Yan, the first-year students had basically learned the first 10 sequences of the breaking path and binding path. Of course, they had only learned the most basics, they were still a long way from being able to apply them proficiently. However, if he only knows one Heido 4, it's really problematic. It seems that if he wants to stay in the Shinigami Academy, he'll have to spend more money to get more skills, otherwise he might be exposed. Lu Yuan quickly pulled up his information panel and saw that his previous breakthrough attack had consumed 5 units of spiritual pressure. At his current level, he could only unleash a maximum of 15 attacks per class period. Of course, this wasn't the only factor. Spiritual pressure replenishes automatically, and completely depleting it could potentially cause problems. Lu Yuan, why are you spacing out again? You've seemed distracted all day. I almost forgot that time doesn't stop when you're thinking. Lu Yuan coughed lightly and said, Zhen Yan, do you know a Grim Reaper named Kurosaki? Yes, he doesn't yet know what stage the Bleach storyline is at. Although the Shinigami Academy has always been a background element in the main storyline, it doesn't mean it can't be involved in those major events. And most importantly, what if all those older sisters hadn't been born yet? He remembered a setting from Bleach. The ages of people in Soul Society are converted to 10 times their human counterparts. However, Rukia's older sister, Hisakukaki, was wandering the Rukanga with an infant like Rukia. 5 years later, Hisakukaki died, and the following year, Rukia entered the Kukaki family. When she met Ichigo, Rukia said that she was 10 times Ichigo's age. So the question arises, does death grow rapidly from infancy to adulthood, and then age slowly? Or does its appearance and body become essentially fixed once it becomes death, difficult to change, or requiring a very long time to change? Based on Hitsugaya Toshiro's consistently height of less than 1.4 meters and his appearance of a 12 or 13-year-old, and considering the appearance of Genri Yusai, the former might be more likely? When Hinamori and Rukia were at the Shinigami Academy, Shiro was still living with his grandmother, so Lu Yuan's speculation leans more towards the first explanation. But no matter what, if he time-traveled too early, well, he might only be able to pursue Anohana-san. That would be hellish difficulty. A scene flashed through Lu Yuan's mind. In the deepest level of the great underground prison in the center of Seoul society, the Mukan, amidst the fierce battle between the two, Riku suddenly appeared, knocking Kenpeki away with a single sword strike, embracing Anohanaretsu's shoulder with one hand, and taking Anohanaretsu's delicate hand in the other. Then she said, "Captain Anohana, I've already killed Waiwak, the leader of the Quincy. The war is over, and you no longer need to fight Kenpeki to the death. So, marry me." Ooh! That "oh" was Lu Yuan's voice in reality. It looks pretty good. Lu Yuan, what's wrong with you? You're acting disgusting. Lu Yuan composed himself, feigning indifference and calmness, and said, "You haven't answered my question yet." Zhen Yan thought for a moment and shook her head, saying, "I've never heard of this name before. Is he some powerful figure?" It seems the main storyline of Bleach hasn't even begun yet. He then asked, "Do you know the 6th Division? Do you remember their vice-captain's name?" "I might not recall anything else, but Lieutenant Abarai was just transferred from the 11th Division a few days ago. It caused quite a stir here back then. Have you forgotten that?" Lu Yuan raised an eyebrow, thinking to himself, It seems the main storyline isn't starting to unfold much soon. I remember when the story began, Renji Abarai had only just become a vice-captain. Rukia Kukaki should have only just been dispatched to Karakura town at that time. Hey, you two over there, is this time for chatting? It's class time. Forward. Lu Yuan and Zhen Yan suddenly looked up and saw the coach, dressed in a tight-fitting outfit, looking at them with displeasure. "It's time to practice footwork next, you two come up and demonstrate." Chapter 4. Well. Jinyan immediately looked miserable. The shy, boyish-faced boy knew perfectly well what the coach wanted them to do by calling them up. The thought of embarrassing himself and being ridiculed by his classmates made him extremely uncomfortable. Just as Zhen Yan stood there woodenly, Lu Yuan stepped forward. The coach glanced at Zhen Yan's expression, then turned to Lu Yuan and said, "Anyway, only one person is needed for this demonstration, so you can come up alone." The training platform was a wooden platform, about 30 centimeters higher than the ground, built by the coaches to better demonstrate techniques to their students. Lu Yuan glanced at the coach's expression, then stole a look at Zhen Yan's embarrassed face. He knew that the coach wasn't deliberately trying to make things difficult for them, he just happened to catch them and wanted to take advantage of the situation. "Thank you for your help, coach." Lu Yuan stepped onto the ring, walked up to the coach, bowed slightly, and then stood still. The coach was somewhat pleased with his calm demeanor, a slight smile appearing on his lips. He said, "Draw your Zanpakuto, and then, attack me." Lu Yuan didn't ask any unnecessary questions like why? Won't there be any danger? He simply nodded, drew his sword without hesitation, and gripped the hilt tightly with both hands. The coach frowned slightly as he looked at Lu Yuan. This student has a good demeanor, a kind of calm and gentlemanly air. But, look at his posture, the way he holds the sword, and so on. Is this really a student who has studied at the Spirit Arts Academy for a year? He's a complete novice. Aren't you going to attack? He asked a question. Lu Yuan nodded and took a step forward slowly. This was the first time he had held a sword, and feeling the weight of the Zanpakuto, he was surprised that it wasn't very heavy. Was it because his body had already been trained? Or was it because it was his own Zanpakuto, making it so perfectly compatible with him? Speaking of which, since he is destined to become the Grim Reaper, killing and bloodshed in the future will be unavoidable, and his body will likely suffer many injuries. Liu Yuan imagined those scenes, but his heart remained calm. Imagination and reality are always somewhat different. Yet, those keyboard warriors online often claim they feel nothing when looking at uncensored images of human limbs and gore, but in reality, the vast majority of them haven't even killed a chicken. There are countless demons who confidently boast they'll be ruthless killers after transmigrating, but they're probably just ordinary successors to socialism. I should be a law-abiding student like that too. As he said this, Liu Yuan forcefully lifted the shallow bat with both hands, and then slashed it down at the coach. It was naturally and easily avoided. Yo duo duo. Because he missed, Liu Yuan's body leaned forward due to the momentum of the swing. He tried his best to keep his balance and took a few more steps as if nothing had happened before finally regaining his footing. Hey student! Hearing the call, Liu Yuan quickly turned around. The coach's eyebrows were already furrowed. If you manage to touch the hem of my shirt today, I'll apply to the Academic Affairs Office to double your scholarship for this month. But if you don't, well, you'd better hurry up and borrow some money. Liu Yuan's lips twitched. He knew his abysmal performance had angered the coach. What kind of students do teachers hate most? Naturally, it's the students who cause trouble in class, followed by those who don't do well academically. Given Liu Yuan's status as a second-year student, his clumsy, deliberately acted useless performance naturally led to him being seen as intentionally disrupting class. Coach, could I ask how much the monthly stipend is? After this demonstration, you can ask the other students yourself. 3 minutes, I'm only giving you 3 minutes. Use whatever you want, whether it's the ghost path or anything else. Many of the students in the audience were trying hard to suppress their laughter. Both Liu Yuan's cringe-worthy antics and the free yuxing snacks were making them burst into laughter. Liu Yuan was incredibly embarrassed. As an ordinary high school student who focused on studying all day, what did he know about swordsmanship and stances? He felt he could be a little proud that he had the courage to wield a knife against a real person who wasn't wearing protective gear. Regardless of the amount of the scholarship, he needs to demonstrate his true abilities. If he continues with the same performance and ultimately angers the coach, and if the coach makes a scene at the administration office, the possibility of him being expelled is not non-existent. Look at his current abilities. Level 1 White Lightning and Instant Step. Level 1 White Lightning should already make him one of the best in his class, but to use Kido to hit an instructor who can teach at the Shinigami Academy? His only hope lies in his unpredictable Instant Step. The coach certainly wouldn't expect a second-year student to have mastered Instant Step. As long as he catches the student off guard, it's still very likely he can pass this small test. With his mind made up, he quickly ran towards the coach, his spiritual energy rapidly weaving into a circuit of the Kido. The coach was impressed by the student's smooth and effortless manipulation of spiritual energy. Judging from the proficiency in casting the white lightning bolt, it was clear that the student hadn't wasted a year of learning. Heido number 4, White Lightning. 3 bolts of lightning, like sharp claws, shot out from Liu Yuan's hands. The coach stomped his foot hard on the ground, making a loud thud, and in just an instant, they crossed the range of Bai Lei's attack. It wasn't a flash, and it's not like I would use such an advanced technique when practicing martial arts with a student like Liu Yuan. It was just a slight acceleration, but even that speed was still a bit too fast for the current beginners. Because of this dodge, the coach got right up to Liu Yuan. Liu Yuan roared and lunged at the coach, but the coach easily dodged with a light touch. The coach shook his head inwardly, he's still being a bit too hasty. Liu Yuan seemed quite annoyed, and chanted again, Heido number 4. Whoosh! Liu Yuan vanished instantly, appearing before the coach, Bai Lei. Sizzle! The coach's pupils contracted, and he reflexively used Instant Step to dodge. The two men were now several meters apart again. The coach dodged Liu Yuan's attack, but a moment of silence fell over the crowd. What was that just now? No way! Wow, so fast. When did Liu Yuan become so fast? The coach stared wide-eyed and said in a low voice, "This is instant step." Liu Yuan awkwardly scratched his head, pointed to the coach's shirt hem a tiny black scorch mark on the white fabric and said, "Coach, wouldn't you say I bumped into something like this?" The coach, who had just witnessed Liu Yuan's acting skills, rolled his eyes at the humble look on his face, clearly worried that his scholarship would be revoked. Chapter 5. Where did you learn your instant step technique? Upon hearing the coach's question, all the students revealed expressions of barely suppressed curiosity. However, the coach glanced at Liu Yuan's merely smiling face, then his lips twitched as he said, "The rest of you can go to the bamboo grove for training. You stay behind alone." Meeting adjourned. After the other trainees left, the instructor rolled his eyes. "Now you can tell me, right? And tell me your name while you're at it." Normally, instructors and coaches wouldn't specifically ask for a student's name unless they encountered someone exceptionally talented and whose potential could be seen. Liu Yuan was clearly among those. Liu Yuan leaned closer with a sly grin and said, "Coach, if I told you I only secretly watched the Grim Reapers use it and accidentally learned it, would you beat me up?" "I wouldn't have, but now I really want to punch you. Also, don't call me coach in private. My name is Kiryu Ryaga, you can call me Kiryu-sensei or Ryaga-sensei, it's fine." "Hehe, then I'll be a little shameless and call you Teacher Long." "As you like." Kiryu Ryaga maintained a composed expression, but inwardly he thought to himself, "This kid is quite handsome, but why does he have such a sleazy vibe in private?" "Your shunpo is good, in terms of footwork alone, you've already reached a level where you could graduate early. As for Kido, if you could achieve the same level of white lightning technique in other sequences, that would be the same. But, what's wrong with your slash technique? I haven't seen anyone worse than you in the second year." Liu Yuan looked a little embarrassed. "Ryaga-sensei, it's just that I only just got my Zanpakuto today, and I'm a little reluctant to use it." "That's good." Kiryu Ryu was practically fuming. "He could see right through me, but he was too lazy to expose me. Don't worry about your scholarship. I'll submit it as soon as afternoon classes are over." The academy always spares no effort in nurturing talented individuals. Kiryu Ryaga patted Liu Yuan on the shoulder. "Let's continue with class now. However, I'll allow you to temporarily skip footwork practice during class. You can practice other aspects, especially swordsmanship." When Liu Yuan saw that Kiryu Ryaga had brought up the art of slaying again, he didn't even dare to ask how much the scholarship would be, and reluctantly took his leave. Kiryu Ryaga couldn't help but chuckle as he watched Liu Yuan deliberately feign a cautious departure. Exceptional talent in footwork? Quite a promising candidate for covert operations and intelligence. Perhaps he could become a captain in the 2nd or 8th division someday. As he thought about it, he couldn't help but shake his head. It's something that hasn't even happened yet, why think so far ahead? Evening. Liu Yuan, when did you learn instant step? I had no idea. Why did I have to let you know I learned instant step? Ugh, you gay guy. We always trained together. You wouldn't have time to secretly practice behind my back. That doesn't make sense. On the way to the cafeteria, Jinyan clung to Liu Yuan and relentlessly pursued him. There's no one else around, so just tell me. Upon hearing this, Liu Yuan stopped in his tracks. Jinyan was taken aback. What's wrong? What you said makes some sense. Liu Yuan nodded, then quietly leaned close to Zhen Yan's ear. Telling you isn't impossible, after all, you're my good friend, Zhen Yan. I can't hide anything from you, can I? But I'm afraid that if I tell you the truth, you won't believe me, and that would damage the trust between us, wouldn't it? No, I'll believe whatever you say. Jinyan's face flushed red, and she spoke with a strong and clear voice, but as soon as she finished speaking, she hurriedly covered her mouth and then looked around furtively like a thief. Oh, it's alright, I already checked, there shouldn't be anyone around. Lu Yuan waved his hand with a grin, and Zhen Yan's mouth immediately fell down. Then who were you trying to impress with that cautious look you were just now? Yes. Lu Yuan pretended to reach into his shirt and pulled out a small, clear plastic bag, revealing a glistening object inside. This is it. It. Jinyan was so shocked that she stammered. Lu Yuan nodded solemnly, it's it, it's the one. Jinyan roared in anger, isn't this just rice? Shh. Lu Yuan's expression hardened, and he covered Zhen Yan's mouth, his brows furrowing, keep your voice down. If it were ordinary rice, would I be so careful? This isn't ordinary rice. Its effects are extraordinary. What are its benefits? Isn't it just rice? Lu Yuan shook his head, this rice is extraordinary. It cleanses the spleen and stomach, invigorates the spirit, and calms the fire. It's thanks to it that my control over spiritual power has become increasingly refined, and even my spiritual pressure has increased. The reason I can use instant step is because I can control spiritual particles from a more refined perspective. Well, you can understand it as I already knew footwork, but I was lacking in spiritual power control. By consuming this recently, I've made up for my weakness. This. Zhen Yan's eyes widened slightly. Could it enhance control over spiritual energy and spiritual pressure? Actually, most foods in Soul Society have similar effects, but those merely balance the daily loss and replenishment. Foods that can increase spiritual pressure are invariably rare and nutritious supplements. Such products are usually only available to nobles. Yes. Lu Yuan nodded, it means that I was born a genius. Ah, that's not what I meant. He was utterly astonished. He looked at Lu Yuan with a strange gaze, but he couldn't help but believe him a little. He could clearly sense the spiritual energy contained in the small bag of rice before him. Lu Yuan, under Zhen Yan's longing gaze, put the spirit rice back into his clothes, then solemnly said, I won't lie to you, this was a reward I received for doing someone a favor, and I don't have much in stock myself. But, we're brothers, right? If you want some, I'll sell it to you for, 5,000 yen per pound. Pretty generous, right? The system values it at 3,000 yen, which is also the purchase price for a general store. This means that selling it for 5,000 yen per kilogram would yield a profit of 2,000 yen. I originally wanted to sell it for a higher price because the system is incredibly exploitative when it comes to spending money. While making a profit, you'll also receive diamonds at a ratio of 1 in 1,000. This profit, along with the initial investment, can be used for further in-game purchases. However, the ratio of exchanging cash for diamonds is only 1 in 10,000. Therefore, the best way to obtain diamonds is through buying and selling. If you really want to keep buying indefinitely, like a perpetual motion machine, then you'll have to sell your diamonds for 5 times their estimated value. 5,000 yen. Jinyan's mouth dropped open. 5,000 yen. That was practically half of his monthly living expenses. And that was just for 1 pound of rice, it would probably be gone in 2 days. But, thinking about it carefully, the cultivation consumables that can increase spiritual pressure cost 5,000 yen for 2 days, which is only 150,000 yen a month. This amount is definitely not high among nobles. As long as it really has the effect that Lu Yuan described, it will definitely be more than worth the price. So, Jinyan gritted her teeth and said, I'll buy it. A relieved smile spread across Lu Yuan's face as he patted Zhen Yan on the shoulder, good brother, it's only right to share good fortune. This is your destiny. System brand premium rice, 70 caddies 69 caddies. Resources, 2,200 yen 7,200 yen. 02. Ding. The beginner quest starting from scratch has been completed. Congratulations, host, you have received a super value newbie gift pack. Just as I calculated. Liu Yuan smiled sinisterly. Start. Chapter 6. The new player gift pack is now available. Randomly obtain 3 R rank or higher items from the monthly gacha pool. Drawing. Congratulations on obtaining item 100% headshot red bean bread, 10 servings, R, item Elizabeth's doll costume, R, skin Lake Toya, R. Friendly reminder, our 100% guaranteed to burst open red bean bread is now available in grocery stores. Thank you for your patronage. 3 items guaranteed, 10 pulls guaranteed. Am I really one of those people with bad luck? What? 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 What are these 3? The red bean bread and the mascot costume are one thing, but what the heck is this last skin? A number appeared on Liu Yuan's forehead, and he quickly checked it. Item red bean bread with 100% headshot guarantee, R. Description: for some reason, this red bean bread will 100% stick to someone's face whenever it's thrown, otherwise, it's just a regular red bean bread. Price: 1000 yen. Why is an R rank item cheaper than an N rank item? Is it because it's a causal weapon? Props: Elizabeth's doll costume, R. Description: a plush toy outfit with virtually zero defense. Wear it, and maybe those who want to attack you won't? Price: 1W yen. This mascot costume, well, I admit, I quite like it. Skin Lake Toya. Description: originally a purchase from a TV shopping channel, someone engraved the words Lake Toya on the end of the hilt. Equipping this skin will hide the spiritual pressure on the Zanpakuto, and the shape and size of the Zanpakuto will change to the style of Lake Toya, but the material and essence of the Zanpakuto will remain unchanged. The skin cannot cover the Zanpakuto's released form. Seems pretty impressive. The ability to conceal the spiritual pressure on his Zanpakuto means that even if he's wielding it, people will only see him as carrying a useless piece of wood and lower their guard. He can even chat while secretly gathering his spiritual pressure, then unleash a sneaky attack. It perfectly fulfills Liu Yuan's expectations for a cunning and scheming character. What's more, this is Lake Toya. Liu Yuan swallowed hard, wondering when he could secretly put a skin on Qiande. For now, he'd just let the skin rest peacefully in the warehouse. Jinyan, let's go eat. You should know where there's a rice cooker, right? A rice cooker. It's just something for cooking rice. It seems to really work. I feel all warm and cozy after eating. Zhenyan squinted and shuddered, imagining herself as a captain of the Godi I-13, a crescent moon naturally curving her lips, he. He walked to the student dormitory and headed towards his room. Suddenly, he saw 2 figures in the distance acting suspiciously by the bushes, doing something he couldn't quite place. Jinyan frowned, concealed his footsteps, and slowly approached. After only a few steps, he looked as if he had seen a ghost. Good brother, we're roommates, I wouldn't hide anything from you, so it's only right to share the good times. This is your lucky break. Thank you, brother Yuan. I'll never forget you when I get promoted. Sigh, why are we talking about this between brothers? Do you think I wouldn't trust you? Hearing these familiar words, Jinyan felt a surge of anger rising to her head. Liu Yuan. Hey bro, take these first, I have some family stuff to take care of. Liu Yuan maintained his smile, covered Zhenyan's mouth with one hand, grabbed her head with the other, and then left the scene at lightning speed. Ptah! After letting go, Jinyan, who almost thought he was going to suffocate, was finally able to breathe again. He glared at Liu Yuan, his eyes burning with fury. Liu Yuan showed no embarrassment whatsoever, as if he were someone else who had recently told Zhenyan, I'm only selling you out because we're brothers. What's wrong, Jinyan? Can't you see I'm talking business with someone? You might scare away my clients like this. If that happens, how are you going to compensate me? Seeing Liu Yuan's furious expression, Zhen Yan's finger trembled as she pointed at him, her eyes filled with shock as if to say, how can there be such a shameless person in this world? Lu Yuan sighed helplessly, so, what's the matter that you called me over? If not, I need to continue looking for my next trading partner. Rikugen. I'm here. You, how dare you say such a thing? Why are you embarrassed? You lied to the other classmates just like you lied to me, didn't you? How can you call it a lie? They just asked me for the secret to their success, and I told them the truth. Didn't you say you were only telling me? Lu Yuan's expression froze, as if he had thought of something terrifying. He took 3 steps back with a chill, staring at Zhen Yan in horror. So that's why you're angry? I'm sorry, I don't have that kind of orientation. We can still be good friends, but if you're planning to take things further, we won't even be able to be friends anymore. Pfft. Jinyan died. 5 minutes later. So, you're not lying, this spirit rice really does work? But how did you get so much? After being initially misled by Lu Yuan, Zhen Yan, who had regained her trust in him, asked with suspicion. She no longer objected to Lu Yuan telling this secret to so many people. Was this just a marketing strategy? After Lu Yuan told him that the others were all selling for 6,000 yen, Zhen Yan felt inexplicably relieved and stopped caring. Lu Yuan simply shrugged, that's a trade secret. Jinyan cast a resentful glance, so, how many people did you sell to? A dozen or so. Are you really that short of money? Zhen Yan sighed. You probably don't have many of these rare resources, so why not use them to improve yourself instead of selling them? I don't really understand. It's a long story, Lu Yuan Chong sighed. So I won't go into it. However, I can tell you another secret, the real secret. Jinyan's eyes betrayed disbelief, so, what's the secret? Lu Yuan tapped his head with his index finger and said, actually, I have amnesia. Right now, I don't know anything except instant step and keto. So, should I do some post-meal exercise? As he spoke, Lu Yuan drew his shallow weapon. It can't be true, right? You're really not lying to me this time, are you? Jinyan recalled Lu Yuan's clumsy knife-wielding posture that morning and was somewhat convinced, but her self-preservation instinct still warned her, don't easily trust this big BD in front of you. Hey bro, help me out. Didn't you see I still remember you even though I've lost my memory? You're talking nonsense. When I pulled you out of bed this morning, you clearly asked me who I was. Well, I was just sleepy. Real. Lu Yuan paused for a moment, then charged forward, eat my greatsword. Chapter 7. I'm starting to believe you really have amnesia. Seeing that she had easily defeated and sent Jianda Lu Yuan flying, Zhen Yan wore an expression of disbelief. His swordsmanship had never been particularly strong, at least in the past, he had always been outmatched by Lu Yuan. So, if the other party wasn't deliberately teasing him, then the credibility of his amnesia story increased even further. So, you just had a normal nap, how did you suddenly lose your memory? Zhen Yan was completely baffled. Relax, even I, with my amnesia, am not bothered by this, so why are you worrying about it? Looking at Lu Yuan's nonchalant expression, even though he was clearly a patient, Zhen Yan couldn't help but feel an urge to punch him. On the other side, Lu Yuan glanced at his personal information section and also felt slightly helpless. Skill experience books cannot be used on abilities that have not been learned or possessed, otherwise, he might have directly considered investing them in slashing technique or free fighting. The level to be learned must be at least LV1, meaning he needs to raise his slashing skills to a level where he can graduate before he can use experience books to level up. The experience required to upgrade Shunpo to LV2 is 1000, while White Lightning requires 100. It seems that different skills require different amounts of experience. After consulting with Jinyan, I finally managed to get the stance right. At least this way they won't immediately spot it, right? At night, after dinner, many students still practiced quietly in the courtyard or indoors. The effort required to become a full-fledged Shinigami as soon as possible was naturally indispensable. Most were not exceptionally talented, and of course, those like Hisagi Shohei who repeated 2 years were a minority. Most of them graduate after 6 years of high school and become low-ranking Shinigami in the Godai 13. Yes, the kind of Shinigami that chased after Ichigo Kurosaki and Ganjo Shiba in the Ryuka arc, yelling and trying to steal the credit. Even these Grim Reapers, who are portrayed as incredibly weak in the series, are considered to be living quite well in Seoul society. The lives of the residents of Ukidokai are truly miserable. As the moon gradually rose, Lu Yuan began to feel soreness in his limbs. It was strange, really, how could he, a mere spirit, still feel back and waist pain? After having a late-night snack of cooked rice at the cafeteria, the two returned to their dormitory, exhausted. 7 or 8 classmates had already laid out their bedding on the spacious tatami mat. Upon seeing Lu Yuan return, they all gave him a sly look, as if to say, "He he he." Lu Yuan nodded meaningfully, indicating that this was a little secret between them. Yes, it's his little secret, both between himself and many others. It seems that this kind of dietary supplement that can increase spiritual pressure is indeed in high demand. 17 caddies of spiritual rice can be exchanged for a single summoning opportunity, it's just a pity. Yes, the grocery store can only sell 10 caddies of spirit rice a day, which is not enough to make a fortune with just that. Moreover, this also eliminates the possibility of Lu Yuan becoming an agricultural tycoon with just one product. This restriction is in place to prevent the host from purchasing system goods without limit, creating unnecessary inflation. Also, system inventory takes time to build up. That's how the system explained it. As for the truth, well, Lu Yuan has no way of knowing. A day has passed. Assets, 90,900. Diamonds, 59. There are 60 jin, 30 caddies, of rice left. How many bags of rice are 60 jin? How many flights of stairs can 60 jin of rice be carried up? After eating 2 bowls of rice and a pound of spirit rice, Lu Yuan's spiritual pressure increased by 1. If he continues to eat like this, even if he only eats 2 bowls a day, he can break through 10 in less than a month. His spiritual pressure can reach double digits. Without a doubt, spiritual pressure is a symbol of absolute power. Although high spiritual pressure doesn't guarantee an absolute advantage in battle, it certainly allows one to do whatever they want. You can unleash techniques like Heido 90 or get Shuga Tenshou at will. What's the most important factor in measuring combat power for a Shinigami? Besides their Zanpakuto, isn't it spiritual pressure? Oh right, Zanpakuto. System, is it possible for me to draw a Zanpakuto from the Bleach gacha pool? What if I draw a different Zanpakuto from another Shinigami? The system replied, due to issues involving causality, you cannot obtain the Shikai and Bankai of a Zanpakuto from the Bleach gacha pool. You can acquire the corresponding weapons or abilities by drawing from other gacha pools, which will automatically convert into Shikai and Bankai. Speaking of which, I don't think I'll be unable to control my Shikai, do I? My Zanpakuto can't be without a name, can it? System, say something. Please train on your own, host, and do not make things difficult for the system. Okay, then let me ask a different question. To give a simple example, imagine a world where the power system is extremely unbalanced, with only beings as strong as gods and as weak as chicks. In that world, wouldn't the gacha pool be unable to pull any mid-tier items? Yes. If a card of a certain rarity is not present in the current card pool, then that rarity cannot be obtained. What about the guaranteed minimum for a 10 pull? No. Isn't this consumer fraud? The final interpretation of this system rests with this system. Oh, you're quite stubborn. And so, the days passed one by one. About a week later, Lu Yuan was stopped by Kiryu Ryaga again. Ryaga-sensei, has my doubled scholarship arrived yet? Seeing Lu Yuan's starry eyes, Kiryu Ryaga's lips twitched, and he pulled a small bag out of his pocket. That's true, but could you tell me what happened before that? He shook the rice grains out of the sealed plastic bag and asked in a cold voice. Amount. Lu Yuan looked embarrassed, and just as he was about to force a calm smile, Kiryu Ryaga slapped him on the shoulder. All right, I've already had someone research it myself, and this stuff does have some effect. Luckily, it's not anything harmful, otherwise I wouldn't be standing here talking to you like this. Kiryu Ryaga paused, then said, the higher UPS don't know yet that this is your doing. I told those loose-lipped brats to keep quiet for now, but in a day or two, things might change. What do you suggest we do? This. Lu Yuan said meekly, it's just selling some cultivation supplies, that shouldn't be a problem, right? Ha! Kiryu Ryaga tapped Lu Yuan on the head and scolded, if you were a legitimate businessman, that would be fine, but you're a student at my Shinigami Academy. Do you think you can get away with selling this kind of thing without permission? If it were just some ordinary little thing, that would be one thing, but this is spiritual food that can increase spiritual pressure, a substance semi-monopolized by the nobles. It could even be considered contraband. Do you know what will happen if the higher UPS find out about this? Lu Yuan then realized his situation seemed quite precarious. He swallowed hard and said, so, you're going to take advantage of me and leave me alone? At least you're not completely stupid. Kiryu Ryaga demanded sharply, before deciding on a solution, there's one thing I must ask you clearly, where did this come from? If it was given to you by someone of dubious origin, I can no longer protect you. A thorough investigation is necessary. Lu Yuan sighed, as if he had made a difficult decision. After a moment of contemplation, he looked seriously at Kiryu Ryaga. Teacher, I'm coming clean. Okay, that's good. If there are no problems, I'll take the blame for you. Longwo nodded, seeing Lu Yuan's expression of realizing he had gone astray. Lu Yuan then let out a soft breath, drew his Zanpakuto, pointed the tip upwards, and murmured, let's eat, Lake Toya. Chapter 8. Pfft. Kiryu Ryaga nearly choked on his breath and couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of saliva. Fortunately, Lu Yuan had created some distance beforehand for the demonstration, otherwise he would have been in an awkward situation where he couldn't decide whether to wipe it or not. Kiryu Ryaga's eyes widened when he heard the standard liberation phrase. He was about to retort, but when he saw Lu Yuan's Zanpakuto suddenly transform into a simple and rough wooden sword, his words caught in his throat. Grain after grain of glistening rice fell from the rough wooden sword, truly beginning to enjoy the meal, just like Lu Yuan's famous line. After a while, a small pile of rice appeared on the ground. Lu Yuan sheathed the drooping blade of Lake Toya to his side and said calmly, yes, this is the ability of my Zanpakuto, Lake Toya, appetizing. Pfft. Cough cough cough. Kiryu Ryaga almost choked on his own saliva. He looked at Lu Yuan's Zanpakuto with a strange expression. It showed no spiritual energy fluctuations and looked just like any ordinary wooden sword and asked, as if confirming, is this really your Zanpakuto? Yes. Kiryu Ryu didn't ask why the Zanpakuto had no spiritual pressure. He wouldn't go so far as to pry into the details of its abilities. He simply remained silent for a while, carefully choosing his words. After all, Lu Yuan completed his initial release in his second year. While this talent may not be the most outstanding throughout history, it is certainly among the rarest. At least, no such promising talent has appeared in recent decades. But, this kid's spiritual pressure is clearly just average, far from meeting the standard for completing Shikai, right? So, is that why this Zanpakuto has no spiritual pressure? Just as Kiryu Ryaga was undergoing his self-transformation, Lu Yuan spoke up again, yes, you might find it hard to believe right now. But I'm coming clean, I truly am a genius. Kiryu Ryaga's gaze grew increasingly strange. While you are indeed a genius, there's no need for such self-aggrandizing praise. It's just so irritating. Ha! Kiryu Ryaga sighed in resignation, now that you've mastered Shikai, let me ask you in advance, which squad do you plan to join? 4th Division. Is that so? The 4th Division, hey! Ha! Kiryu Ryaga nodded at first, then let out a surprised sound. He looked at Lu Yuan as if he were looking at an indescribable monster. I remember you never answered at all. Lu Yuan tilted his head, what's the necessary connection between this and wanting to join the 4th Division? You don't know that the 4th Division is a rescue force, do you? Oh right, he's a medic. Lu Yuan revealed a shrewd smile, Ryaga-sensei, don't you think the ability to produce food would be a good match for a rescue force? Food is crucial for human growth, with food, recovery is much easier. Perhaps my Zanpakuto even possesses healing abilities. This. What should I do? What he said seems to make a lot of sense. Alright. Kiryu Ryu sighed helplessly for what felt like the umpteenth time, I'll submit your application, whether they accept it or not is none of my business. Lu Yuan's eyes lit up upon hearing this, thank you, teacher. I'm just curious, why do you want to join the 4th Division? Of course, it's for Mazai, to save lives. Saving a life is better than building a 7-story pagoda. Lu Yuan's expression flickered for a moment, then he said in a serious tone. Kiryu Ryaga's lips twitched. This kid was clearly not telling the truth, and the pronunciation of those 2 words just now. Ugh, I can't think about it too much. Let's continue our previous topic, regarding how you will dispose of your spirit rice. Kiryu Ryaga said, the first solution is for you to stop selling this from now on. I'll make it seem like this never happened. Once you're capable of handling the pressure of selling this stuff, you can sell it whenever you want, but that won't be my problem anymore. He paused, looking at Lu Yuan's perpetually fake smile, and said, the second option, if you want to continue selling, is to cooperate with the True Central Spiritual Arts Academy. That is, the True Central Spiritual Arts Academy will act as the supplier, buying spirit rice from you. This spirit rice will become the student's monthly stipend. Of course, before you become a formal Grim Reaper, you still need to contact the Spiritual Arts Academy in my name, since with your current status, it's impossible for you to have a fair transaction with them. And the profits will be split 50-50ths between us. Kiryu Ryu couldn't ignore Lu Yuan's resentful gaze, so he turned his head and said, don't look at me like that. Do you think this is easy? Even for me, completing a cooperation with the Shinigami Academy isn't so easy. I have to shoulder all the pressure that was originally yours. Besides, isn't this a business with no capital? The cost is based on the value of the spirit rice itself, and the so-called profit is calculated after deducting this cost. Assuming the cost of 1 pound of spirit rice is 3,000 yen, and the Shinigami Academy buys it for 6,000 yen per pound, you only need to give me 1,500 yen. But teacher, Lu Yuan pouted and lowered his head, it actually does require costs. Ah! Seeing Kiryu Ryaga's astonished expression, Lu Yuan sighed, took out a 1,000 yen bill from his pocket, and stuck it on Lake Toya. With a whoosh, the bill seemed to be sucked into it and disappeared. Kiryu Ryaga's mouth dropped open. Lu Yuan shook his head slightly, it needs to eat 4,000 yen every day to spit out 1 pound of spirit rice, so the actual cost of 1 pound of rice is 4,000 yen. Of course, it can't eat too much, otherwise it won't be able to spit it out. It can only eat a maximum of 40,000 yen worth of paper money a day. Ugh. Kiryu Ryaga scratched his head in frustration, then said fiercely, I don't care anymore, it's a 50-50th split, and I won't take it any less. Go find someone else. Gulp. Lu Yuan, seeing Kiryu Ryaga's growing agitation, nodded hastily, teacher, let's split it 50/50ths. 50/50ths, that's a good idea. Lu Yuan's eyes darted around, and he added, teacher, let's not talk about when I'm capable anymore. Even if I become a full-fledged Grim Reaper, we'll still do it this way. You help me manage the channels, and I'll give you a share of the profits, how about that? Ha, you really think of me as your employee? Kiryu Ryaga sneered, making Lu Yuan feel a little uneasy. How could that be? It's just cooperation, teacher, a win-win cooperation. Humph. Kiryu Ryaga snorted coldly, saying, at least you still have some conscience. I'll discuss the specific price with the academy and come back to see you the day after tomorrow. Kiryu Ryaga is an instructor in footwork and Kido. The afternoon practice sessions at the Shinigami Academy are rotated daily. If we don't make an appointment, we won't be able to meet again until the day after tomorrow. Chapter 9. After being spoken to by Kiryu Ryaga, Lu Yuan naturally stopped secretly selling it, but he still bought the maximum amount of spirit rice he could each day. Even without selling it, he himself needed to consume it to enhance his strength. 3 days after the conversation, Kiryu Tatsuya presented the finalized contract to Lu Yuan. The final purchase price was set at 8,000 yen per kilogram, with a profit of 4,000 yen per kilogram. Of this, 2,000 yen was given to Kiryu Ryaga and 2,000 yen to Rikumoto. Of course, Rikumoto actually received a profit of 3,000 yen, directly receiving the same profit as the cost. However, under this agreement, the Shinigami Academy demands exclusive sales rights, meaning it cannot sell to other entities. This contract will be in effect for 10 years. Furthermore, only 200 jin of spirit rice will be collected in the first month as a trial, and the amount will be increased starting from the second month. This 200 jin of spirit rice will become the minimum amount of spirit rice that Lu Yuan must provide each month. If this amount is not met, a penalty fee must be paid. According to Kiryu Ryaga, the Spirit Academy can only consume a maximum of about 500 caddies of spirit rice per month. It's not that they can't consume it, but too much of a good thing can be bad. If they give too much subsidy to the students each month, operational problems will gradually arise. However, excluding the production from the extra gacha pool, Lu Yuan's 300 caddies is still well within the Spirit Academy's acceptable range. In other words, Lu Yuan can earn 900 diamonds and 900,000 yen every month by selling spirit rice. Now, after 9 days, and having just handed over the spirit rice he had stockpiled for 2 days and 40 jin of spirit rice from the remaining 60 jin from the card pool to Kiryu Ryaga, plus the meager 20,000 yen in double the scholarship money Kiryu Ryaga brought, Lu Yuan's net worth is as follows. Assets, 640,000. 449. Remaining spirit rice, 11 caddies. Lu Yuan also eats about 1 caddy every day. The spiritual pressure also reached 5 after consuming spiritual rice daily. With 449 diamonds, the question is, should I do a single pull on the Bleach banner, or spend money on a 10 pull on the Gintama banner? Undoubtedly, as a comedy manga, even though Gintama still features many battle scenes, the probability of drawing combat abilities from the gacha pool is far lower than in Bleach. Even with a guaranteed SR in a 10 pull, you might very well get something completely useless. Compared to that, isn't the ghost path better? Isn't the free fighting technique better? Isn't the severing technique better? Even spirit rice, now every single portion can be directly converted into profit. After a long day of studying, Lu Yuan was troubled and couldn't fall asleep. But, it's a guaranteed pull every 10 times. It only happens once a month. Once you miss it, it's gone. Assets, 620,000 130,000. 4495000. Ding, N card, item mayonnaise endorsed by Hijikata Toshiro, ding, N card, Item white sugar endorsed by Sakata Jindai, N card. The mayonnaise endorsed by Hijikata Toshiro and the white sugar endorsed by Sakata Jin have been added to general stores. With a crisp sound, a silver card flashed by, and Lu Yuan's eyes lit up. Item Shinpeiki's glasses, R. Description: the true form of Shinpeiki, stage name wearing human glasses. Wearing them reduces charm by 10%, increases presence by 10%, and increases spiritual pressure by 2. Damn. Referring to a type of plant. Including the previously discarded items, 8 10-pull attempts have already been used. Ding, another silver card. Ability Swordsmanship, Gintama, R. Description: swordsmanship in the Gintama world, when mastered to its highest level, possesses the power to defeat 100 men, but it still remains within the realm of mortals. The host did not possess this skill, it has been automatically learned. Just like when he learned the instant step, memories and experiences related to swordsmanship flowed into Lu Yuan's mind, and both his body and brain learned this ability at the same time. And so, Lu Yuan finally evolved from a complete novice in swordsmanship to a skilled one. After glancing at the 100 experience points required to upgrade this skill, he realized that his level 1 swordsmanship in the Gintama world was probably not enough to reach the level of mastering swordsmanship. Lu Yuan had also speculated about the rarity of swordsmanship. He guessed that swordsmanship in the Bleach world was probably only R rank. Although it was a world where sword fighting was dominant, the pursuit of the subtlety of swordsmanship was not actually that profound. Instead, they are more dominant in terms of the power of their Zanpakuto and the intensity of their spiritual pressure. Haven't you seen how Kenpei Kizaraki's wild and unrestrained swordsmanship can still easily defeat most beings? In the world of Bleach, the emphasis is more on the aura created by the superposition of momentum and spiritual pressure than on the technical level of swordsmanship. In the Fate series, Sasaki Kojiro's secret sword, Sub-Aim Gaishi, Swallow Return, which reached the level of a noble phantasm solely through swordsmanship, was described by Saber as a swordsmanship that transcended speed, dexterity, and feint attacks, and was a multidimensional twisting phenomenon, probably even above the SR level. The Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu style in Rurouni Kenshin features numerous sword techniques, including Dragon Soaring Flash, Earth Dragon Flash, Twin Dragon Flash, Twin-Headed Dragon Flash, Dragon Chase Flash, and Nine-Headed Dragon Flash, and even a secret technique like Heavenly Soaring Dragon Flash. Most of these techniques are related to Iaijutsu, traditional swordplay, boasting exceptional versatility and practicality. However, the description of secret techniques like Heavenly Soaring Dragon Flash is overly exaggerated, even suggesting the ability to create a vacuum and pull the opponent in for a follow-up attack. Overall, it likely possesses both SR-level sword techniques and special skills that reach SR or higher with a single move. Lu Yuan didn't know whether the system would count bugged sword techniques like Swallow Return and Heavenly Soaring Dragon Flash as a type of sword technique, or as a special killing move and calculate it separately. Ding! Wow, a golden SR! Lu Yuan almost burst into tears. So, am I really destined to be an African? Is it only possible to get gold through a 10-pull pity system? After a moment of despair, he examined the last card. Initial release Muramasa, SR. Description: the demon sword Muramasa, in the world of Gintama, causes those who wield it to be haunted by vengeful spirits, becoming extremely interested in anime and games, gradually losing their motivation and fighting spirit, and ultimately losing themselves, becoming true otaku. After transforming into a Zanpakuto, its abilities are assimilated by the Bleach world, reducing its mental attacks on the host, causing each enemy hit by Muramasa to gradually experience the aforementioned effects. Initial interpretation: be decadent, Muramasa. System tip: the current host's spiritual pressure has not reached the minimum requirement, 100, for Shikai. Please do not recklessly attempt Shikai. So the minimum spiritual pressure requirement for Shikai is 100? So, I just drew a Zanpakuto that deals mental attacks. Imagining Hijikata Taoshiro, who became Otaku Taoshiro after obtaining Muramasa in the original Gintama, Lu Yuan felt that Muramasa seemed quite strong, but inexplicably, she didn't seem that strong. After all, Hijikata Taoshiro eventually broke free from Muramasa's curse. However, if you make your opponent inexplicably become weak during battle, they probably won't be able to recover for a while, which seems quite overpowered from that perspective. After completing the 10 pull, Lu Yuan looked at his diamond savings, which had returned to 0, and felt a strange emptiness, as if he had fallen into a state of post-coital reflection. Bite. A new quest has been triggered. Chapter 10. After a period of information updates, personal information about Lu Yuan finally reached the ears of the Godii 13 of the Siritii. To be precise, it was the residents of the 4th Division, the unit Lu Yuan had chosen for his first choice. A second-year student at the Shinigami Academy, 15 years old, formerly a resident of East 47th Ward. His spiritual pressure is average, his swordsmanship and hand-to-hand combat skills are average, no talent for the returning Deo has been detected, his Kido talent is decent, and he possesses astonishing talent in Shunpo, Flash Step. Has he already been able to complete the Shikai of his Zanpakuto? 4th Division Lieutenant Katetsu Isane looked at the intelligence report handed to him by his assistant, Imura Yachika, with a strange expression. Do you know why this kid wants to join our 4th Division? Ahem. Imura Yachiwa, with his blonde hair, long face and square-rimmed glasses, coughed lightly and replied, according to his teacher, Kiryu Ryaga, when faced with the same question, he said this: saving a life is better than building a 7-story pagoda. Upon hearing this, Katetsu Isane's eyes lit up, and he unconsciously put down the document in his hand. Saving a life is better than building a 7-story pagoda? To be able to say such a thing, even if he doesn't possess the talent for returning to the Deo, he's perfectly qualified to join our 4th Division. Of course, we still need to observe him a bit more to see if he's a person who truly embodies the spirit of helping others and acts accordingly. Regardless of other factors, a boy who can complete his Shikai at the age of 15 is already worthy of the title of genius. Historically, many Shinigami who have achieved this at such a young age have at least become lieutenants or even captains. If it weren't for the fact that the 4th Division is primarily responsible for healing and support, most other divisions would probably be more than happy to take Lu Yuan in after seeing this information. Of course, the 4th Division has also had instances of accepting people who lack the talent for using the returning path, or even those who don't know how to use it at all, as members. However, most of them were only temporary members, and after working in the 4th Division for a period of time, they would be transferred to other teams. Looking at the vice-captain with admiration in his eyes, Yi Jiangkan silently wiped the sweat from his brow. As a senior, it was only natural to feel some pressure when facing such a struggling student. Not to mention Ba Yukian, who felt his status as the 3rd-place finisher was even lower than other teams. He was already sweating even before Lu Yuan had officially joined the team. I have a feeling that my position as an adjutant won't be secure for long. In Bakukin's mind, the reason he had been able to serve as the adjutant in the past was not because he was particularly outstanding, but simply because he was the best among the worst. Once a more outstanding newcomer arrives, he will probably have to step down from his position as the undeserving 3rd-place holder before long. Thinking about it carefully, I feel a little disappointed, but also a little relieved. Katetsu Isane seemed to sense Yachiki's emotions and smiled. Regardless, we should wait until he actually graduates early. Judging from this little brother Lu Yuan's current grades in other subjects, graduating early won't be easy. Even if he does become our teammate, he'll need a reliable senior like you to guide him properly. Bashiqian paused slightly, then stood at attention and smiled. Yes. Lord Yuan. Of course, now that he has completed his initial release, there will inevitably be a period of rapid improvement afterward. These shortcomings certainly won't hold Lu Yuan back for long. Katetsu Isane thought to herself, harboring high expectations for this new member who might join the 4th Division. Not far from the 4th Division's residence, in the 5th Division's compound, the lights were still on in the captain's room. Wearing loose brown pajamas, Aizen Saoshuk, who was flipping through administrative documents, paused slightly with his right hand holding the documents, his gaze shifting from the documents to the desk. A sheet of paper, seemingly transparent and composed of spiritual particles, lay there quietly, unnoticed. Oh! A gentle smile appeared on Aizen's face, and his eyes, hidden behind his round-framed glasses, narrowed softly. He slowly rose, walked forward, and his gaze lingered on the letter for about 3 seconds. Then, the letter, made of spirit particles, quietly shattered and vanished without a trace. Aizen, deeply hidden within the Siridi, naturally possessed secret information channels. Even with the complete hypnotic power of Kyoka Suijutsu, he couldn't possibly accomplish every minor task using his ability. To ensure his plans were flawless, these unseen characters in the story truly existed. In fact, he learned of this information even before the 4th Division. Will he be the next Toshiro Hitsugaya, or Jin Ichimaru? Or just some nobody? Upon seeing Lu Yuan's information, he naturally had some fantasies, but he quickly suppressed them completely. If it were any earlier, he wouldn't have hesitated to witness the rise of a new star. Aizen Saoshuk possessed immense ambition, but he wasn't narrow-minded. However, the implementation of the example plan was running out of time, and a spiritual arts academy student who could graduate early at any moment was nothing more than a highly talented new Shinigami to the Godai 13. But for him, it was a variable that had not yet been fully hypnotized. As a specially appointed calligraphy teacher at the Shinigami Academy, he would demonstrate his ability to see through illusions to future Shinigami in front of numerous students every graduation season. This was precisely why he agreed to become a specially appointed faculty member at the True Central Spiritual Arts Academy. It was the best cover for him to use complete hypnosis. If someone who is already completely hypnotized gets a little commotion and wants him to show off the Shikai of his Zanpakuto, the gentle-natured man will put on a very amiable and spectacular performance. Hypnotizing a large number of future Grim Reapers at graduation season would undoubtedly be a highly efficient method. However, in order to deal with the possibility of this situation now, he would occasionally take a break from his busy work and play the role of a calligraphy teacher or a teacher of other subjects, which was not difficult for him. The last time he attended the True Spiritual Arts Academy was during graduation season, which was only 2 or 3 months ago, but now it seems he has no choice but to go again. Bite. A new quest has been triggered. Mission name: Death cannot die from illusions. Mission description: your existence has come to Aizen Saoshuk's attention. To ensure the plan goes perfectly, he will use his full hypnotic power on you. Although Aizen intends to hypnotize you merely as an extra layer of security, how can you, as the host of this great system, sit idly by and surrender your life to someone else's control? Even if there's a 90% chance Aizen will ignore you after you're hypnotized, the host still can't bear such humiliation. You absolutely cannot place your hopes for survival on someone else's whim. You want complete hypnosis? But I refuse. Restriction: you must not have witnessed the release of Mirror Flower Water Moon before the next monthly gacha refresh. Mission rewards: Training Room unlocked, Training Room Voucher X10, 10 Pole Ticket X1. Mission failed: Opposite S** X affection -50, Anohana Yachiru's affection -100. System tip: don't even think about it. Aizen's gaze is already locked on you, and it's about to lock on completely. Pfft. Rikumoto, graduate. Chapter 11. Lu Yuan, are you in a bad mood? No, why do you say that? It's not that I'm in a bad mood, but could you please take that knife off my neck? Seeing Jinyan slumped on the ground with a long face, Lu Yuan snapped out of his daze and quickly removed Jienda from Jinyan's neck. Sorry, I was thinking about something. A week after the start of the semester, they were informed that the sword-cutting course would include a practice session with real swords once a week. This meant that during sword-cutting practice, the wooden training swords would be replaced with asabuchi, a type of Japanese sword. A Shinigami from the 4th Division is stationed at the training ground to handle any unforeseen circumstances. If a student accidentally injures a fellow student, he will immediately step in to retaliate. Only those who can practice this kind of technique with a shallow stance can do so. Most students, let alone Shikai, struggle to even maintain a stable spiritual pressure on a shallow stance. If an injury is caused by a Zanpakuto that has completed its Shikai, healing it will not be easy. It is certainly not something a lower-ranking Shinigami can easily heal. Didn't you say you had amnesia? How come your swordsmanship has become so strong again? Don't you know there's something called muscle memory? I gradually remembered it while practicing with you. Is that so? Jinyan, looking pitiful as he scrambled to his feet, was suspicious. Although Liu Yuan's explanation seemed reasonable, he felt that Liu Yuan's swordsmanship style was completely different from before. If Liu Yuan's previous swordsmanship was academic and stiff, Liu Yuan's current style could be described as wild. It seemed to lack structure, yet it was surprisingly smooth and free. Liu Yuan casually brushed off Zhen Yan, but he was indeed somewhat absent-minded. A week had passed since the mission was announced, and although the initial shock had subsided, the sense of bewilderment remained. What did I do? How did I end up offending that man? Giving up is out of the question. His -50 affection level with all members of the opposite S*X means he could very well become the first man in Seoul society's millennia-long history to remain single forever without dying in accident. And Captain Anohana's affection level is -100. I wonder if this older sister will just kill him with a single blow during their future meeting in the Siraidai? This is the first captain of the 11th Division, the first Kenpeki, and the strongest healer in terms of combat power. And most importantly, doesn't that mean we can't use any strategy guides? Although a week had passed without any word from Aizen, the quest still appearing on his quest panel indicated that Aizen hadn't given up on that spur-of-the-moment idea. It was just a matter of time, and Liu Yuan guessed that time was already very close. Avoiding complete hypnosis isn't difficult, simply close your eyes during Aizen's release. A blind captain gave this a thumbs up. The difficulty of this task lies in what follows. Aizen came to completely hypnotize him. It's one thing if others don't pay attention, but Liu Yuan is impossible for him not to. In this situation, Liu Yuan's deliberate closing of his eyes during the hypnosis ritual, which was under intense scrutiny, only drew Aizen's attention even more. If this plot were to continue, Aizen might go from performing in front of everyone to scheduling a private meeting with Liu Yuan for another performance, and then, well, his life would be in danger. It was only a matter of time. To put it bluntly, after killing Riku, Aizen only needed to have the completely hypnotized crowd witness Riku's suicide. Of course, such an obviously flawed death would not be the method Aizen would choose. It would have to be a death that could be justified. To be honest, Liu Yuan didn't mind being completely hypnotized. After all, Aizen's goal was to deceive everyone, not to expend great effort to kill a nobody like him. Once the hypnosis was fully established, Aizen would definitely not give him another second glance. Therefore, the most correct solution should be as follows. Try to stall for time as much as possible, and during this time use methods that will not attract Aizen's attention to avoid complete hypnosis. Then, let Aizen complete the hypnosis once the mission's time limit has expired. Several immature plans gradually formed in Liu Yuan's mind. But most of them were not good plans. At best, they could only be considered unorthodox. The root cause is simply that he is too weak. Someone like Aizen, if you pay a little attention, is no more difficult to crush than an ant. Only the strong deserve to enjoy fine wine and beautiful women, the weak can only enjoy blood and fire. Liu Yuan sighed inwardly and asked Zhen Yan, aren't you a little tired? No, although Liu Yuan, you have indeed become much stronger, I can still hold my own. Hee, rather, since you've become so strong, I can't fall too far behind. Aren't you tired? Liu Yuan didn't show any emotion towards Zhen Yan, who had a youthful spirit on his face. Instead, he leaned closer and asked again. Even the most handsome face, when pressed so close, can give one goosebumps. Those wide-open eyes and bloodshot whites made Jinyan even more uneasy. No, I'm not tired. Real. I think I'll rest for a bit. Liu Yuan shrank back, patted Zhen Yan's shoulder and nodded, then you rest well here, I'll go ask Professor Mada for some advice. Okay, fine. Jinyan pouted, a hint of resignation in her heart, so Liu Yuan thinks I'm too weak. Watching Liu Yuan's departing figure, Zhen Yan silently clenched her fists. Saburo Mada is said to be the uncle of Mada Kicho, the vice-captain of the 2nd Division, and is also the instructor of hand-to-hand combat and sword techniques for Riku's class. Mr. Mada. Saburo Mada, who was rubbing his chin and looking at the erotic book in his hand, quickly stuffed it into his crotch, looked ahead with a serious expression, and said in a low voice, "What's wrong, child? I have some questions about kendo that I'd like to ask." Saburo Mada paused, staring at Liu Yuan's face for 3 seconds before his brow relaxed. "You're Liu Yuan, the student Ryaga's been talking about all the time lately." Liu Yuan, neither humble nor arrogant, nodded slightly. If Mr. Mada is referring to Liu Yuan of Class 3, then it is none other than myself. Saburo Mada, who was sitting on a tree stump, patted his behind and stood up, grinning to reveal his gleaming white teeth. He laughed and said, "What, isn't there any rivals in this class that you think you can compete with?" Despite Liu Yuan's swordsmanship level being only 1, at least for now, no student can rival him. Liu Yuan answered with silence. To answer directly would be far too arrogant. "I thought you'd be more patient." Saburo Mada joked with a smile, but his eyes held a scrutinizing gaze. Chapter 12. Saburo Mada appeared to be reading erotic books, but he hadn't actually stopped observing the students. He was more skilled in hand-to-hand combat than swordsmanship, but at least for these students, there was no difference in skill level between the two, as both were heights they couldn't reach for the time being. In Mada's eyes, Liu Yuan's slashing technique, though still somewhat immature, already possessed a unique style, forming a clear distinction between it and the slashing techniques of other students from the academic school. Logically speaking, he should have paid attention to such a student before. But Liu Yuan seemed to appear out of nowhere. His originally unremarkable swordsmanship suddenly underwent a dramatic change one day, reaching its current level. Although it was still somewhat lacking compared to his own level, it was at least enough to pique his interest. "I have no interest in slowly teaching you the basic concepts of cutting techniques or anything like that, I don't think you need them anymore." Saburo Mada slowly drew his Zanpakuto, or rather, "I prefer teaching by example to verbal instruction. True swordsmanship is forged in real battles." Liu Yuan's expression changed slightly. The imposing aura gradually rising from the other party made the young, naive man take a step back. "I've heard you've mastered instant step. That's all right, feel free to use it in front of me. Of course, I won't use any power other than slashing techniques." Liu Yuan looked around and saw several pairs of students who were practicing sparring had stopped. "Don't we need to move to another place? Do you think we need to move to another location?" There was no derogatory word in Saburo Mada's words, yet Liu Yuan sensed an invisible, intangible contempt within them. And this contempt was entirely justified. Perhaps in Saburo Mada's eyes, even standing still wouldn't guarantee defeat? Saburo Mada watched as Liu Yuan's expression gradually turned serious, and chuckled inwardly. How could he possibly let go of such an opportunity to inspire the other students? "That's Liu Yuan? And Coach Mada." More and more students noticed the commotion, and the sound of voices spread until everyone stopped and looked in their direction. Liu Yuan, who had always been the center of attention since childhood, was completely oblivious to these gazes and did not feel much pressure because of them. This performance made Mada nod slightly in approval. As a division commander, it's naturally impossible for me to attack first. Then the student would be impolite to refuse. No sooner had he finished speaking than a whooshing sound rang out, and Liu Yuan had already arrived in front of Mada, swiftly slashing down with his sword. It's instant step. The students outside the venue provided explanations. Even after witnessing such skillful instant step once again, many students still found it hard to believe that their classmate, who had been unknown not long ago, had suddenly become so powerful. The students who witnessed it exclaimed in surprise, "No, that's not all. When did Liu Yuan's slashing technique become so powerful?" Although Liu Yuan's slash was easily blocked by Saburo Omida, none of the students thought Liu Yuan was weak. The sharp aura and beautiful arc of his blade made them marvel that Liu Yuan had surpassed them in the art of swordsmanship. "You're still using a bit too much force with your knife. While I can see you're trying to achieve a 70/30th precision, your current skill level isn't up to that level. Why not lower your expectations? That might make things much easier." While effortlessly fending off Liu Yuan's fierce attacks, Saburo Omida kept talking, giving detailed instructions. As Liu Yuan fought, he could clearly feel the accuracy of the flaws pointed out by Mada. His mind gradually cleared, and he became more and more fluid in his attacks. The gap between the two sides was obvious, but Liu Yuan did not intend to give up. Even if this was just a training match, Liu Yuan did not think he should easily admit defeat. If the fight between the two is merely a comparison of raw strength, then simply listing their data and converting it into combat power would be enough to determine the winner. If you don't even believe you have the slightest chance of winning, then who can guarantee your victory? Once the swords are drawn, the only goal is victory. That's why Liu Yuan wouldn't give up using instant step just because this was a swordsmanship instruction session. Besides, regardless of which ability he used, he could still gain valuable experience when facing stronger opponents. Liu Yuan couldn't help but enjoy this feeling of victory or defeat. It's hard to imagine that Liu Yuan, who was just an ordinary high school student 2 weeks ago and would even praise his courage for swinging a sword at someone, is now able to face things with an attitude of enjoyment. He kept calculating the angle of his sword strike, launching a fierce attack. His stamina was rapidly depleting. In less than 2 minutes, his strength would be completely exhausted, and in another 30 seconds, his movements would become sluggish. 30 seconds, this was the last chance he had to seize victory. If he were to use the instant step, a skill that consumed a great deal of both physical and spiritual energy, during this time, it would undoubtedly shorten the time even further. But Liu Yuan did not hesitate at all. His only chance to seize victory was the instant step, which his opponent forbade but he could use. Whoosh! The disturbance of spiritual particles meant that Liu Yuan's shunpo was completely undisguised in the eyes of Saburo Omida, making it easy to predict. Clang! The Zanpakuto clashed, producing a crisp sound. Saburo Omida simply tilted his head slightly to dodge Liu Yuan's slash. At such close range, Flash Step is not very effective unless you use a high-level technique similar to Flash Flower, which involves adding a spin to Flash Step and striking at the fastest speed while using Flash Step. Whoosh! 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 Liu Yuan used his instant step technique almost without pause before launching a surprise attack, but unsurprisingly, every seemingly unexpected attack was easily defended by Saburo Omida. After about 2 more uses of instant step, his stamina will be exhausted. Saburo Omida's expression remained unchanged as he decided to end the battle before Liu Yuan was exhausted. Rather than letting Liu Yuan suffer a crushing defeat, defeating him while he still had some strength left would be a better outcome, prompting Liu Yuan to reflect on his actions. Whoosh! With a whooshing sound, Saburo Omida's gaze sharpened. The trace of the spirit was as clear as a tangible object in his eyes. He swung the back of his sword fiercely towards the spot where Liu Yuan was about to land. Lu Yuan was violently sent flying by this anticipated attack, but at the same time, with a soft hiss, Saburo Omida glanced down and saw that a long, narrow tear had been slid open on his sleeve. With a clang, before the attack was fully executed, Lu Yuan's Zanpakuto slipped from his grasp and fell to the ground. Is this a flash? No. Saburo Omida's eyes flashed back to the slash that Lu Yuan had unleashed the moment he stepped out with his shunpo. That was just one of the most basic applications of slashing techniques, a simple arcing slash, but through ingenious calculation, it utilized the reaction force of the instant step to complete a clockwise rotation, an attack performed as if swinging a sword. Chapter 13. What? You hit the target pretty well. Instead of being angry, Saburo Omida smiled. Swordsmanship, Gintama, experience plus 55. The guidance match from Mida brought about a greater growth in Lu Yuan than the previous week's results, and Lu Yuan, sitting on the ground, also smiled. Of course, he knew that another training session wouldn't have the same effect. This training session resolved all the doubts that had accumulated over the past period, leading to growth. Without the accumulation of knowledge and experience during that time, such progress would not have been possible. Looking at the students who were staring at him, Mida raised his voice slightly, "You guys still have a lot more to learn if you want to reach Lu Yuan's level. Why did you stop? Wouldn't it be better to use this time to practice your swordsmanship a few more times?" Under Saburo Omida's reprimand, the students reluctantly turned back and continued their training. But compared to before, they felt a new drive, a determination to catch up with their more outstanding peers. Saburo Omida felt gratified as he watched his students train even harder. Instead of dragging the exhausted Lu Yuan into another training session, he sat down and explained to Lu Yuan his shortcomings and how to handle certain details better. While I prefer leading by example, it doesn't mean I don't teach by words. Teaching by words and leading by example together make a complete idiom. Lu Yuan listened attentively, just like he used to in high school. When he came to his senses, his swordsmanship level had already subtly changed. Swordsmanship, Gintama, LV1 LV2. Experience points, 0/500. The experience points required to go from level 1 to level 2 have increased 5-fold. If they keep doubling, the required experience points, I'd rather not even think about it. Compared to swordsmanship, the experience points gained from instant step have barely increased, barely breaking into single digits. It seems that it will take a long time to level up through training. After explaining the technique to Lu Yuan, Mida went to give individual guidance to the other students. While resting, Lu Yuan kept simulating swordsmanship in his mind. Time passed, and the sun gradually set in the west. That concludes today's lesson, but before we disperse, I have one more announcement to make. Saburo Mida cleared his throat and said, "Next Monday afternoon, there will be no more exercise, instead, we'll have a calligraphy class. Is everyone happy about that?" After a brief silence, the crowd erupted. Roar Yahoo! Did I hear that right? A calligraphy class? Isn't that special instruction class given by that person? Amidst the cheers, Lu Yuan's expression darkened. What was bound to happen has finally arrived. 30 minutes later, in the teacher's dormitory. "So, didn't I already give you the money in advance?" Kiryu Ryu rubbed his scalp in frustration. After the initial resource handover, Kiryu Ryaga suggested to Riku that they would only need to pay their dues once a month from now on. The funds needed for this, along with the month's profits that he was too lazy to pay again, were all handed over to Riku. That's 840,000 yen. This amount of money is not small even for Kiryu Ryaga, but he still handed it over to Riken without hesitation, which shows his trust in Riken. "Teacher, aren't you afraid of losing so many supplies? Leaving aside this month, if it's 300 jin, 150 caddies, every month, that's 2.4 million yen worth of supplies. And it's so conspicuous. I don't want to lug such a huge pile of stuff to you. However, the most fundamental reason is that after Liu Yuan happily completed the transaction with Kiryu Ryaga, he returned to his dormitory only to find that if he didn't hand over the spirit rice to Kiryu Ryaga, the profits generated from selling the spirit rice would not be converted. Sigh, what you said makes a lot of sense. But actually, the higher UPS can't possibly be unaware that this spirit rice was produced by you, or at the very least, that you're involved. They're just turning a blind eye. With me as the middleman, they're quite at ease. So you don't need to worry about being arrested and interrogated for suspicious behavior. As for theft or robbery, do you think anyone would dare to rob the Spirit Arts Academy? Even if it were stolen, they wouldn't be afraid of losing it. Kiryu Ryu went on, and Liu Yuan nodded, feigning ignorance, then asked, "Just tell me if you want it or not." Looking at Liu Yuan's innocent expression, Kiryu Ryaga felt no trace of youthful naivete and only wanted to whack him. "I want it." Liu Yuan casually tossed a large bag of spirit rice aside, shrugged, and said, "Teacher, I've already told my roommates that I'll come to your dorm to ask you questions around this time every week." 0210. Kiryu Ryaga curled his lip, "So you're just waiting for me here, huh? Fine, it's not like I can't teach you. Anyway, rumors are already circulating that you're my apprentice." Liu Yuan's neck trembled, and his pupils contracted slightly. "Disciple." Kiryu Ryaga pouted, "What's wrong? You seem quite dissatisfied." Liu Yuan shook his head repeatedly, "No, no. Whether in studies or in life, you are my good teacher." Kiryu Ryaga scoffed, completely unmoved by Liu Yuan's insincere flattery. When Liu Yuan dragged his tired body back to the dormitory, it was already 8 o'clock in the evening. At this time, most students had stopped their post-dinner exercise and started studying hard. The Shinigami Academy's cultural curriculum includes history, linguistics, genjutsu, the study of illusions, and Kido, the theory of demonic arts, among others. Aizen's calligraphy class, however, is not included in this curriculum. It is considered an elective art course. These courses weren't too difficult for Liu Yuan, who had been exposed to exam-oriented education. However, catching up on the lessons he missed in the first grade in a short period of time was still a bit of a headache. For the first 2 weeks of school, he spent almost every day at this time studying the textbooks for academic subjects. Fortunately, he didn't disappoint. He roughly estimated that he would have a good grasp of the material in another 2 weeks. After all, he was a top student, and that wasn't just for show. At 11 p.m., most students are already in bed preparing for sleep. The more outstanding the student, the more strictly they manage their time. Constantly burning the midnight oil will only reduce efficiency the next day, and in the long run, it will even diminish memory and hinder the natural growth of spiritual energy. Few people would do something so counterproductive. Liu Yuan pulled up his backpack, and with a thought, he was already in the lottery interface. He watched as the background constantly shifted, flashing across the Death God gacha pool filled with numerous items. Without hesitation, he clicked the button that was supposed to be a 10 pull, but due to a lack of diamonds, it became a 4 pull. He originally planned to hoard diamonds for a 10 pull in the next monthly gacha pool, but since Aizen's mission already provides a 10 pull reward, there's no need to hoard diamonds anymore. It's all or nothing. Since we've decided to complete this mission, we should maximize our strength. He chose to skip the card drawing screen and go directly to view the rewards. Seemingly to compensate for the bad luck of the last 10 consecutive death cards, this time in the 4 consecutive cards, except for the first one which was another bag of rice, the other 3 cards all shimmered with a silvery light. Chapter 14. Kido Heido number 33, Azure Fire Fall, R. Description: launches a powerful explosive fire attack on the opponent. Chant: You who reign, mask of flesh and blood, all things, take flight, you who bear the name of mankind, truth and temperance, stand only as claws on the wall of a dream that knows no sin. Minimum spiritual pressure requirement, 50. The host did not possess this skill, it has been automatically learned. Demon Path Binding Path 9, Strike, R. Description, binds the opponent with red light. Chant, destroy yourself, Black Dog of Rondonini, burn to ashes after reading, slit your own throat. The host did not possess this skill, it has been automatically learned. Footwork Instant Step, Flash, R. Description, a technique that involves spinning during a shunpo, instant step, then using special footwork to get behind the opponent and disrupt their sleep with a thrust. It emphasizes footwork skills more than slashing techniques. The host has learned the skill Instant Step, which has been automatically added to the skill description. Instant Step experience points plus 1000. Instant Step LV1 LV2. Experience points, 15/5000. Remaining assets, 680,000. 10. Pity. Aside from the flashing flower, the other abilities didn't significantly improve Liu Yuan's strength. What he really hoped for was to obtain an item similar to Spirit Rice that could directly increase spiritual pressure, but unfortunately, he didn't get one this time either. But at least, he's taken another step closer to becoming a true Grim Reaper. There are 13 days until the next monthly gacha banner refresh. We still don't have enough diamonds. As long as you have enough diamonds, you could draw his weapon hundreds or thousands of times, and with a bit of luck, you might even be able to defeat a major boss like Aizen. Fortunately, in order to expand resources, a draft plan had already been drawn up a week ago. The next morning, while his other roommates were still lazing in bed, Liu Yuan had already left the True Central Spiritual Arts Academy and arrived at the East 47th district of Rukanga with only an ordinary wooden sword tucked into his sleeve. He had naturally conducted his own investigation over the past week. Based on recent research on him, he was probably the last person to know his birth details. From the very beginning, once he understood the principles by which his system acquired resources, he did not limit his focus solely to the Siraidii. Compared to Siraidii, the Rukanga, several times larger in area, was considered a golden land by Liu Yuan. It wasn't that there was no commerce in Rukanga, but rather that the nobles naturally preferred to develop the inland regions compared to Siraidii. The reason for this, besides their self-righteousness, is another very important one: demand. The wandering spirits in Rukanga do not need food in principle, they can survive simply by absorbing spiritual particles from the atmosphere and drinking water. Souls without spiritual power neither grow nor feel hunger, so there is not much food in Rukanga, nor is there any catering industry. Lacking a foundation like the catering industry, similarly, industries such as clothing and animal husbandry have not developed and remain at a very backward level, completely incomparable to the Siraidii. Those with excessively high spiritual power would resort to plundering to buy food and water because they couldn't sustain themselves even by naturally absorbing spiritual energy. However, most of these talented individuals eventually entered the Siraidii and became Shinigami, death gods. As a result, the rudiments of commerce could not be formed, and the development of the ghost city remained almost non-existent. The needs of the wandering spirits in Rukanga are narrow, but that doesn't mean they have no needs. They can also appreciate the deliciousness of food and the beauty of clothing. It's just that, they don't have the means to do so, and the residents of Rukanga don't have the purchasing power to do so. So, it would be great if someone could forcefully promote commercial development here. The people are the decisive force in social change. As people's livelihoods improve, various industries will naturally develop as a result. Props mayonnaise endorsed by Hijikata Toshiro, N. Description: highly recommended by mayonnaise addict Hijikata Toshiro. Each 50 grams bag brings unparalleled bliss. It restores energy 5 times faster than other mayonnaises. System price, 200 yen. Tools: Sakata Jinjigen's white sugar, N. Description: for diabetics. Highly recommended by Sakata Jintoki, a sugar addict. Each 50 grams packet delivers unparalleled, bone-deep sweetness. Its energy-restoring effect is 5 times that of other white sugars. System price, 200 yen. The system gave him 100 portions of these 2 items for each draw, which is actually only 5 kilograms, or 10 pounds, exactly the same weight as the spirit rice. But this is essentially a condiment. You've seen someone eat a pound of rice in one meal, but have you ever seen someone eat a pound of sugar in one meal? That's definitely excessive sugar. During the 10 pull, I drew 400 portions of white sugar and 300 portions of mayonnaise. After Luan, I bought a few hundred more to make both 500 portions. I dared not buy more. Compared to spirit rice, this kind of thing naturally wouldn't attract much attention at the Spirit Arts Academy or the Siritii. Luan had already secretly tried it. It did have an effect on the recovery of physical strength and spiritual power, but it was definitely not very noticeable. However, this was also because his spiritual power was already close to 10 times that of an ordinary wandering soul. If those normal wandering souls drank a large spoonful of white sugar with their water, they probably wouldn't feel hungry for a whole day. Isn't this Luan? What brings you back? How's it going at the Spirit Arts Academy? Luan, when did you become a Shinigami? Is this wooden sword the Shinigami's Zanpakuto? Brother Luan, are you free tonight? It seems I used to be quite popular in this area. Luan smiled and waved to the unfamiliar faces, wondering if any of them might be his childhood sweethearts. Even though he didn't know any of them, all he had to do was smile. What was that last sound all about? Sorry, you're outside my defense range. According to his prior investigation, this was indeed the street where he used to live. Why hadn't anyone actually come up to welcome him after walking for so long? What happened to his childhood sweetheart? What happened to his best friend? Hey, Luan, you've come back successful and haven't forgotten about us, have you? The scene he had imagined, where a red-haired Abarai jumped out, patted him on the shoulder, and said those words, did not materialize. Could it be that he's not as popular as I thought? He saw a hint of awe in people's eyes. Even if there were his childhood friends among them, they probably wouldn't dare to approach and speak to him because of the difference in their social status. The absence of overly intimate people certainly reduced many troubles for Luan, who hadn't yet integrated the original owner's memories. This should have been a cause for celebration, yet Luan inexplicably felt a touch of sadness. Come to think of it, I seem to have had a similar experience on Earth. He was an orphan. Chapter 15. So, you mean you want to sell these supplies here? The kind-faced old man had his small eyes squinted, making it look like he was smiling. Luan Zheng sat opposite him and nodded slightly. Yes, what is your opinion, Your Excellency? If that's the case, then please leave, the old man said with a smile, indicating his refusal. This kind of thing has no market in Rukanga. Why do you say that, sir? Luan shook his head. The Wandering Souls Street has long suffered from a lack of food. This item can speed up the recovery of the injured bodies of the children who are playing, and it can supplement the rations of those who lack spiritual energy. With both measures taken, how can we not change the current situation in District 47? Speak like a human being. This mayonnaise can accelerate the recovery of physical strength and injuries, and this white sugar can help those with naturally excessive spiritual power replenish their missing spiritual particles.